What's going on, people? This song's the jam, man. L2Y, how's it going? What's going on, people? Alright, audio sounds alright. I am alright, L2Y. Thanks for asking. Got one last thing to do for this semester, and I'm done for like 4 days, and then I'm right back at it. Hopefully not, though. I'm thinking I have to take fall semester, the rest of this year off for school in order to be accepted to the school I'm trying to transfer to. So hopefully that is the case, because I'm kind of done with school right now. A break would be beautiful. But yeah, just one last thing. How are you guys doing in there? Also, feel free to let me know if the music's a little loud. I didn't even check to see if... Well, I guess I can just check. It's kind of low. I think we're chilling. Oh, things will go well for the rest of the semester. I just have to write an essay on the psychosocial effects on pornography and love. So that shouldn't take me any longer than like 30 minutes. But at the very least, I'm escaping this class with like an A minus. So I'm not stressing over that one. It's a pretty easy class. All right. So I figured today we just talk a little about like what's going on with Black Clover. I know a lot of the controversies died down a bit, which is good. However, I know it's still there. People have kind of lost hope, and have somehow just taken away faith from Tabata. You know, it's the usual cycle, but I feel like this one's just a bit different, just because of the context. And what's specifically happening with the biggest part of the story, really. So I did want to talk about it a little bit, and yeah, Tony, how's it going? So I also did want to talk about some things that we should be looking back for, maybe for anti-magic. It's to me, it's gotten more interesting. I don't think anything has been diminished. I don't think Tabata shot himself in the foot when he did what he did in the last chapter by sharing all of the... sharing some of his energy with the Black Bulls to couple in with the magic that they already have. So I was looking back a little bit, and I saw a few instances that made me it caused a little bit of pause, just because there might be some things about Asta that we learned by this happening. And whether it's right or wrong, I think it's just interesting to look at regardless. Byron, the officials made the chapter way better, and most of the critics for it have a low comprehension. Yeah, I think a lot of it exposed a lot of people, and I don't want to come on here and be like super condescending or think I'm holier than thou, whatever. But I do think a lot of people mistook themselves for like dedicated readers to this series. Not talking about comprehension, just like how invested in the series they were to begin with. And I think it just exposed a lot of casual readers. And I think that's the thing that people are coming to grips with. And so what we're seeing are not necessarily people that are keeping up with theories or trying to make theories, but people that are just kind of casually looking here and there, they might see a theory here and there, but don't really apply it to the story. So they're just kind of looking at it at face value, and what they get is what they get. So when you get something like this and you don't apply any of that context or any existing theories that are out there, not even just mine, there are so many good theories out there. And you're just looking at it for what it is. Yeah, it's going to look nuts. It's going to look absolutely insane. But I think that's all this chapter really did. Tingus Pingus, how's it going? I just like saying your name. It's funny. Tony, do you believe that Asta is Astaroth's son? No. Do I think it can happen? Absolutely. It's just an Occam's razor sort of thing. I would hate for it to happen. One of the worst things ever. I've said this before on this channel. In my opinion, I really, really, really hated the Tobi Obito thing in Naruto. And it's just like, yeah, you mix the letters around a little bit and you get Obito. It was just not good to me. So it's not my favorite thing when it's like, oh, the name is Asta, and then, it's like Astaroth. Sure, like, I get it. I totally get it, and I'm not going to say it's going to be awful when and if it happens, but I think it just makes more sense for Asta to be self-born and not the son of anyone, because that's kind of the point of magic. I forget what video specifically I point this out in, but when I did get the book, what book was it? I think it was Qlipoth, Kabbalah, and Magic was the book I was referring to, which talks all about the left-hand path of magic, which is the draconic side with demons. And the point is, the mage ends up birthing themselves, so they get to be reborn as a god. Now, I guess the twist to that is that all the power they obtained when they descended into the tree and met, in this case, Moloch, or no, actually, it wouldn't be Moloch; it would be Satan, and they get blasted back into the reincarnation cycle. They somewhat keep their powers, and I did mean to put out like a little video or a thread on this specific word, and it shows up in the Bible and other scriptures as well. But essentially, what it means is you have a deity who descends from a higher status, and they don't necessarily know that they are a god or a greater deity. But over time, they start to acquire the power that they had obtained back. And along with that, some memories of who they were in the past and who ultimately they will become in the physical realm. So I do think Asta is one of those things. And I also put out a thread on here that talks about a specific Buddha. And I know it seems like it could seem like I'm jumping from like lore to lore. The thing is that I hope I've made clear by now is that a lot of these philosophies are actually very much rooted from the same places. So a lot of what they believe in are more or less the same. So you'll get a lot of cross lore. And when it comes to the left-hand path of magic especially, it's a Western ideology with the practices of Eastern ideologies. So you'll get things like meditation, and you'll hear things like they'll refer to things like Shiva or Buddha, and different tantric practices when it comes to that, in order to reach these higher powers. So I hope that much is clear. I know I go back and forth between like the Goetia, this Key of Solomon, that sort of stuff, and then go into like Buddhism, and we touched on Jainism here as well. So yeah, it goes into a lot, but the point is to be self-birthed when it comes to magic specifically. Joshua, how's it going? Tingus, this is somewhat off topic, but have you ever seen the Mandela catalog? I think you'd like it. I don't think I've seen the Mandela catalog. No, I have not. Uh, I don't know if it was you. No, it was someone else who suggested something else to me that I did read, which was pretty interesting. But anyway, let's kind of get into this stuff. So, I was kind of looking through the chapters. It's not this chapter, but did you guys know that we know the attributes of the Gordon's family? Because I didn't until I was scrolling through randomly. The grandmother with flame magic, black oil magic we knew for the dad. Mom has poison plant magic. His little sister has acid magic. That's insane. And then the pet dog is a pet dog. That's it. It's 5 years old. That's crazy, right? But yeah, that's super cool. And I really like the fact that the little sister has acid magic. Because a lot of people were thinking like a Dramalek would have acid magic. So that'd be kind of cool. As a connection, and maybe like they could even bring his little sister into the fray. Maybe not like into like a battle, but she would know how to fight acid magic if he had acid magic. I think that's pretty cool. I had no idea that these people were fleshed out like this. So it was nice to see. All blood type O's, which is also kind of interesting. I think Gordon is blood type O as well. So that means they can only have O's. They are O dominant people, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I think it starts in the next chapter here. So it was always something that just like made me pause and like, how did this happen? How did Liebe allow this to happen? So they're in the ritual. Liebe totally jacks the Demon Slayer sword, right? Before any other sword. And by the way, this is really cool. This is probably the coldest we've ever seen Liebe, and then like he kind of fell off after. But he does this, smacks Asta, and then he proceeds to start taking the other swords, right? Also, this picture I think is just, I've always thought this picture was so important. I don't, it kind of goes into the theory I was talking to you guys about the devils evolving and trying to find perfect vessels, and I think they've even gone through animals. I did talk about that last stream, and if they did, this is what they look like, and they were not perfect, obviously, because they got subdued by humans. But this is from like years ago, but I do remember talking in depth about how this could have been Lilith, or in this case Megicula, because Lilith is known as the Screech Owl when it comes to like Judaic lore and even Christianity. And then this would be something akin to like Azazel, or probably just Satan in this series, while this might be Beelzebub or someone else. I'm really not sure what this even is, because I don't know. It looks kind of like it could be a ram, but its face isn't long enough. It has like the face of a lion. I don't know. It's just a really weird creature. I've always kind of looked at it too, like it kind of looks like a snake that's looking directly at us with nostrils. But that's definitely not the case. That'd be a weird ass body. Anyway, I think we'll end up coming back to this picture at some point. But yeah, so Liebe's taking the swords. Where does he take the other swords? God damn, bro. Okay, I guess it's not that chapter. I didn't realize he didn't just take all of them at once. Yeah, your sad story. Also, this... Before I forget to talk about it again, you guys have seen me talk about this on Twitter for sure, and this will definitely go into like the super crackhead theories. However, it's pretty cool to me, especially. Okay, so we talked about how the firmament is like, it's a big dome and all that stuff. In this case, the Earth is somewhat flat. I only say somewhat. This is not the accurate depiction there, because you do see other stuff below it. However, it is not an entire sphere. And one of the interesting things that we see in the series, I I'm going to make this a little bit larger. Hopefully it doesn't get too blurry. But one of the interesting things that we see is like when they show Lucius with his palm over the entire world. It's just the landmass, and then the rest of the globe looks like it's just water. And what that would look like is if this is just the 4 continents, the rest of what we see of the world is the great deep, you know, the waters that make up the lower ends of the firmament. So I think there's enough room for this to be applied. I don't think it'll be like bar for bar what this is. But I do want to point out some very interesting things. How hell is directly attached to this, but it's a specific hell that's attached to this. This is called shale, as you see. Now, shale, if I recall correctly, is more of a surface level hell. So this is not your deepest hell that you can go to, and it's, as you can see, the rest of it is not mapped onto it. And it made me think of that because Liebe gets thrown out, and he lands in the world of the living, which would imply that hell is directly connected to the world, like it has a physical location in regards to the physical realm. And I think it's cool in this case, like I said, that Sheol, the surface level of hell, is here, which makes sense because this is where Liebe would be. If he were in any other place, he might be yeeted somewhere else. And I'm kind of curious if they're in like separate dimensions. So I guess we could put it this way, where Sheol here is the first gate of the underworld where Liebe was thrown out of, and of course this is Earth where he's at now. Now, when we go talk about Hino would be somewhere outside of the firmament, and we'll get to that thread maybe later. Hopefully I won't forget, because I do want to press on the anti-magic point, like right off the bat. But we do see Hino, and we see that they have a connection to the underworld as well. However, their connection warps time and space, which means that their connection might be more profound, meaning that they're connected to deeper levels of hell, more having to do with probably just Astaroth and Beelzebub. And that would be their specific connection. So there could be, if Liebe was yeeted out of Astaroth or Beelzebub's realm, he would end up in Hino. I think that could be something that is viable, but I did want to point that out. There's also a depiction, I think they have it on here, where they even include Leviathan. There he is. And Leviathan, of course, resides in the Great Deep. And this is essentially where we find Leviathan in the story, is in the underwater temple, which I don't think it's crazy to say it's the Great Deep. So I do think this is interesting, how it kind of it lines up, and I'm also a little bit interested in this site. I don't think I've read this whole thing, but anyway, to get back. Okay, the sad story. Lucifero makes her a donut, and then she dies. She doesn't die. We can't say that she dies, because we didn't see the grimoire disappear, and he's still somehow sealed in this grimoire. So we brought that up, how if it was wholly anti-magic that Liebe has, he would not be still confined to this grimoire. I don't really care what anyone else says. And this could be a major plot hole. So me pointing these things out, if they're not addressed, I'm going to address them as plot holes later on, because that's what they would be. However, I think these are just variables that need to be considered for some possible future events that can happen. Also, never realized Liebe has an aura of light around him, which is insane, because it shouldn't be light, right? Anyway. Alright, just take the swords. I don't want to... Okay, there we go. So he takes the 3 main swords. Then he attempts to take the katana. Asta catches on, and then he grabs it. and then he ultimately just yoinks it. There is no reason as to why Asta should be able to grab this katana when Liebe is in control of this force of anti-magic. And Asta supposedly has nothing at all. The thing is I think Asta does have something. And this kind of requires us to look at what just happened in this most recent chapter. So don't mind me skipping around a little bit. I want to put it right next to... Where were we reading? Oh, there we were. Okay. So, of course, we're going to point out the obvious. Manga is a illustrated format to tell a story. So, pictures matter. Imagery absolutely matters. Just as much as words do, if not more. Okay, so we're looking at the Black Bulls. You see that their magic is tainted with this energy now. You see what we should assume are just flames for Magna are now cloaked in black. Lux lightning is cloaked in black. The mirror for Gauche, whatever the fuck flower thing was on her waist. And Charmy's cotton is black. And of course the rest of the crew as well. But how would it exist if it was anti-magic that they have? And what I'm trying to clarify right now is that what they have isn't necessarily anti-magic. It's an energy that Liebe has, but has been made into anti-magic by Asta. By whatever he has, and I will get into this. So, just kind of walk with me, okay? I know it's going to sound a bit nonsensical, but I kind of want to paint this picture so that you guys better understand where I'm coming from, and then we can make our opinions from there. So, let's say this is an alternate universe, right? Where the MC is Luck. We'll use Luck. And Luck doesn't receive the Grimoire initially. However, he's got lightning magic. And whatever mechanics doesn't really allow for lightning magic to get a Grimoire, normally. Fights Revchi. Revchi starts winning. Luck comes in. Lightning gets negged, whatever. And then a Grimoire comes out. It's the 5-leaf Grimoire with Liebe inside. Now, instead of the swords, it's okay. I'm sorry. Let me walk it back. Luck hasn't. I want this to make as much sense as possible. So what I'm trying to get at is that now that the Grimoire chooses Luck, the anti-magic. There's no swords in this Grimoire. Let's just say it's lightning. The anti-magic takes on to the form of lightning because that's what is there. Now, he's got the properties of black lightning. Now, in Asta's case, there were swords in this Grimoire with anti-magic qualities already. We see that Licht is able to even bat away magic spells with a purified, I say purified, there's probably a better term to put on it, but, unrusted version of the Demon Dweller sword, as well as him using the Demon Destroyer sword. So the anti-magic properties more than likely don't even come from Liebe at all, and they come from the swords themselves. And the energy that Liebe is giving off is more akin to what Licht has, which is, I guess, more or less straight up mana that he uses. Because if you remember, we have the before he gets the swords, we never see him use the actual swords, but we do see that there are some instances where he uses his magic, and it looks like light, but I guess it's just nothing but mana. So this would make sense, especially if we look at it in the sense that Liebe is one of the sons of Licht. He would be gathering the power from outside of the Tree of Klippa. And I want to show you specifically what this looks like. I asked for the Ein Safar, and oh, there we go. Okay. Now, these are also in very old videos on this channel, very detailed in this sense. But, so here we go. This is where Licht would be as an apostle, which means that he is getting his power from the source itself. Up here are the three negative veils of existence. This is how God exists. I believe it's infinite nothingness, infinity, and infinite light. Something like that is how God exists in all three forms here. As we should know that most high deities live in triune state, so trinities exist no matter what, but they act as a union, which is why they call them like a host or crowd of gods. So Licht is getting mana straight from wherever the hell mana comes from, and is deriving his power from there. And this could be why every time they mention Licht and how he is, how he's kind of melted into the environment, how his power is pure, is because of this. So now we talk about the clip-off, where it's the shadow of this exact tree. And the exact same thing happens down there, except they call this the three veils below Satan. This is where chaos exists in three forms. So that means that Liebe would be drawing from a pure source of negative energy. Well, he would be that pure source, because we already have a Satan that is there. This would mean that he would be Lucifer, which would be the direct antithesis of this Ein Sephar notion that I'm showing you guys now. So what I'm getting at is that Liebe doesn't have what he thinks he has. The anti-magic more than likely comes from the swords. And on top of this, with Asta being able to grab a sword and just straight up yoink it from him, this could imply that he's got some type of power that allowed him to neg Liebe trying to get that sword. And I think that I'm going to go with Occam's razor here, for once. I think that Asta simply has sword magic. I know there were past videos and past threads where I kind of went in on WK Minato's thought on the sword that Yami gave Asta, the katanas the katana that he had, channeled an aspect of him that allowed him not to harm anything. And this is supposed to go off of the legend of Masamune, and what is the other sword? You guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. But there's the sword that cuts everything, and then there's the sword that cuts only the things that it wants to cut down, and is more of a protector. So the idea behind that was that Yami, his very spirit, was like Masamune, the sword that protects, while Ichika was the other sword that cuts down everything. But if we kind of dial this theory back, Yami never displayed the type of ability that Asta shows with his Infinity Slash, with being able to discern who is friend and foe. The best we see from Yami is that he can cloak his sword so that the blade is blunt. And we see that in the Elf arc. So he absolutely does well when it comes to protecting, but he doesn't do this like, okay, I'm going to make sure that my magic only harms those that I want to. This has to come from Asta. He gave this sword an attribute. And the crazy thing is that we don't get to see Licht use any other sword except for Dweller. Yes, he uses Destroyer, but he doesn't really use it like Asta does. It seems as though Asta is really going with what he can see. There's a moment in the underwater temple arc where he's fighting Kyoto, and Kyoto's magic is throwing him off because Kyoto's magic is cloaking his movements, and it's hard for Asta to read his ki in that way. So Asta says he'll recreate his magic with his body, which he does successfully right away, as he normally does most things. So when we see him do the Demon Dweller thing that he did in this chapter, he's really going off of what he saw Licht do, and really nothing more. And the same thing with the anti-magic slashes that come out of this sword. He's doing what he sees. And when it comes to things like magic, your limit is your imagination. And I know that Rill is kind of like the poster boy for this, and I'm not trying to say that he's not special in this way. I think he is super special, because he is limitless, but that's what magic is across the board. It is only limited to your imagination. So consider that Asta is a very limited being, someone who can't use magic, someone who's always told that he cannot use magic. There's no point for him to be able to envision using any type of energy in a way that magic is used, until other people point it out to him and say that, well, maybe it's possible, let's give it a try, like Ryu does. And while that might sound a little too simple, I do want to reinforce it with the fact that Gray was walking around thinking she had transformation magic. The moment that, number one, she was pressed against the wall when Ghost was about to die, and then Owen told her, like, this isn't transformation magic, this is transmutation magic. Then the definition broadens, and she's able to use her magic in better ways than she was before, because she was only using it to transform. So she was limited to the label that she had already put on it, while it was something else. And this is something I feel like people just don't do. I feel like I might be the only one who does this. This is not just like a random story. No one cares about Gray. No one's going to care about Gray when this series ends, I'm sorry to say. But these instances are used by Tabata to push something that might happen in the future. So mislabeling of anti-magic is going to limit him to only use this in a way where he's canceling out magic. And we see that it doesn't work all the time. And it's always been a weird thing. And I could probably look back on some of the tweets that I made as these were dropping some years ago. But I would always say, how does anti-magic get anti-magic here? It just, yeah, we can talk about output all we want, but if you hit a wall, you hit a wall. Like, it really doesn't matter, like, what happens outside of that. It just is what it is. So the fact that anti-magic doesn't always neg magic should be one of those indicators that this is not being labeled correctly. I see that there are a lot of comments, so I'll look at this and then we'll get back into this. But I do think that one of the attributes that Asta has is simply sword magic. Okay. Okay, so Josh, and certain demons have certain specific things and abilities to which they can teach and pass on to the devotees. That is true. However, it doesn't seem like Tabata is really going. That's like a Solomonic and Goetia type thing. It doesn't seem like he's really going that route. He's just taking the broad spectrum of like devils having very physical attributes and not conceptual things. I think that's the only thing he's taken away from it, which I think is pretty smart as a writer, because they overlap anyway. You have 72 demons that can teach you more or less the same stuff that another demon could. So there's that. Baphomet can be the middle one. Middle one of what? Also, I do want to clarify for the Baphomet thing. Baphomet is a state of being more than it is an actual, not even a demon. It's just it's a state of equilibrium. Shift or anyway, like to become. That's only with some. Some ones absolutely will. No, active. They talk. They say Belial will take of two beautiful angels. Those sort of stuff. Every single one. And like Ostroff, for not one. Like his presence kills people. The smell of his breath, of course, but he doesn't do anything in his shape, anything like that. Excuse me. Samuel, okay, but why when he uses Devil Union it turns to black and not rusted? You mean the well, because he's drawing energy that Liebe has. They're all black too. How's it going? Tony, maybe Asta and instead of speed into existence, it's whatever he perceives to be real becomes again. And I do believe I've said similar on this channel. The old is something that Noel pointed magic do what they wanted to do, or something like that. People hated that line, but it's the actual definition of magic. I don't know what they expected, but I think that'll come full. That line was meant to be there, and it's one of those instances that I keep trying to point out. That, you know, it'll come full circle, absolutely. People might not like it, but the very devices are all there and set up for us, so that let's realize what he's capable of without Liebe. It'll make sense for sure. Oh. Let me see if I can fix whatever's going on. Just making a new. Give me just a second. Go. We're going new source. This one. And we should be good there. Okay. And we're gonna mute the other one. Okay. That should have solved the issue. Let me know if it doesn't. And it's too loud. Are we good? Yes. Oh, maybe so. It looks like we are. Kind of. Yeah? Yeah, I think we're good. Tell me, you know, a little feet, you know. Jack, it's working. It's the best. Or we liked it better when you were not working. Something like that. They're a little behind. Well, I'm gonna keep going. And I'll just keep an eye out on the chat. But, okay. So... But yeah, Tony, I agree. That whatever he thinks can be real will become real. It's just self-actualization that he seems to be good at throughout the entire... It's still lagging. How is it still lagging? Is it because we're supporting the fundraising efforts of Maui? Shoot. Let's see if I can get rid of some stuff. Close out of some things. See if that takes some pressure off. If at any point it does get better, please let me know. So I can stop monkeying around. It's better? Okay, great. Alright. We're going to keep it pushing. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, Tony, agree. Whatever. Nick lagging. Bruce, how's it going? Yes, it's been a while. Haven't seen you on here in a bit. Okay. So, I do think that Asta is... Let me preface this. We have to understand, since the beginning of the series, Yuno and Asta have always grown in tandem, in direct proportion to one another. When one grows, the other grows. One had a spirit inside of him, one has a spirit in his grimoire. One has all the magic in the world, this one has no magic. One can control the flow of mana, one can complete... these are not on accident. These are absolutely 100% on purpose. So with that said, I don't think that Asta only has one attribute. I think he will be like Yuno, and he will have two. Toxic, how's it going? The second one is a bit up in the air. However, there are a couple things that we do need to question about both Asta and Liebe. And it's the fact that no one can sense mana from them. Now, in the fight against Lucifero, he points out that neither of them has mana. Like, he can sense that neither of them have mana, which is true, right? But then this also kind of begs the question, I know you guys have been seeing on Twitter how I've been talking about the ancient demons more. And it's because they operate a bit differently. So the thing is that when we look at, and I'll kind of go back as well, because I'm not entirely sure about Nama and Lilith. But when we look at the devils using their power, it's not demon power, it's devil power. When were the twins even relevant? I can't remember. I think 290 is about right. Okay. Do they use any spells here that we can look at? Probably in the previous chapter. I got a deeper voice than Rax? Bro, I'm just better than Rax all around. All around. You can tell him I said that. I'm better. My series, every series that I've ever read, better than Fairy Tail. Just let him know that. And my mic works better than his. It probably wasn't working the best, but why did I go forward? But it's working to an extent, so that's better than his. Alright. Come on. I just need to verify for me, because it's not something I looked into. Ooh, boy. We got some cheeks on the screen for a second. Because I should have done my due diligence before I brought it up at all. But I didn't, because that's who I am, so... Here we go. Yeah, it's Devil Ice Magic and Devil Flame Magic. Now, when we look at Patri, right, he has Demon Light Magic. And I remember getting flamed over this when I was first starting out. Because when I was making theories and we were talking about devils, I would say demons, because that's what they're called. They're demons. Like, demons, devils are interchangeable. However, in Black Clover, they're different. It is the case. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. But I do want to say, we have to keep that consistency. So, they're using devil here, whereas someone like Patri is using demon light magic. which means that the energy is wholly different when it comes to this. And when we look at who has become an ancient demon, we've only seen an elf do it. Now, I know Xenon says that it's like the miracle of human hatred and devils or something like that. But I don't necessarily think that that means that humans can do it. If they could, I think we would have seen a lot more, because humans are roughly the most corrupt things that we have in the sea. And they do sense that Katri had magic, and devil Licht was the one who turned into ancient and turning into a devil. We've only seen the devil. We've seen it. Lolo. I think the instances to help us understand the image, what's happening from. So anyway, I speak when we see the attack, always mention negative. When Lumiere absorb it with Swallowtail, she used that. I knew there was with. I think it would make more sense. And that bottom two. Xenon used like devil. My calling that up. See what you did? That looks like it should. Yeah. Let's make a little blah blah blah. There you go, buddy. Okay. So, yet. Like he spell it all. He'll say like facial and say devil. Dying. It's crazy. This was I know and getting below like bound like also like he do flow back and forth, negative like if he burials blah blah blah. Okay, great. If you're reading this, it's too late. Star Magic, I know got you. I crush you. He's just spamming. He's like super overpowered magic. He had the sword. He didn't even say anything. I feel like he does. Oh, yeah, he doesn't. Just is like he has those attributes. That's curious. That. But anyway, yeah, I would say for go back to that for just probably have and not a full information in and out due to think the that we negative mana that demons of the devil come out and sign her mana. Like, well, even black. He be using the mana. that tell us something weird. It, ancient demons in the very end, whether or just it really doesn't even matter. Point. I think it's making more sense if we looking at it as the mana that demons use, and see that demons also have power over charged attacks. That's direct. He's observing it. Points out absorb the area. Things kind of magic around it. Looks like it's and how it's not attached directly to them. Probably for it probably has more of negative mana that is able to. We do see them still use both attack when I don't know what happened after and we have to understand aspect of this. We know we even have Grim there, but demons we know, which is why I think that ultimately happened. Broke. Doesn't really do with devils. It happens. King's Cross had to reconnect the way the jeans start and get the deed done. They expected me to switch when I receive love. Gotta let the marathon run its natural course. Head. I can feel the force. Boots broom on Mogley when I pop out like a likeness. Briefcase no wallet. Just blew a bag like Scotsman. Killed that in the AM going real fast. UK honey at the drill that bonds me. Failed out no conflict. Might have said I love her, but I never made off that. I should be ashamed, and I've said it to a few birds. Made that they was mine, gave him new purse and attention. And they head quick. Will I ever learn? That's a good question. Damn, a lot of pressure, so I gotta pop. That would is nothing on the mana, and there's not like it is in there to be with. So there's just these little things that Tabata throws that we don't out. I think that's serves us, and we kind of it, and we really like for fair. Took it on, and we're like, okay, that's just what happened. Probably a explanation can be applied here. It's these other underrated is just Austin. Are you saying like you will downplay the twins because they were so easily defeated or something? Because I could agree with that for sure. They got matched up with a boy who's got the power to absolutely destroy them. That's it doesn't make any less cool, but they definitely, for sure, were not the strongest devils, and they were never meant to be the strongest devils in the underworld. But Yeah, I think to an extent you're absolutely right. And Nox said they were unbeatable. Yeah. I mean, he initially got their scaling wrong. He was saying that they would be on the level of the Triad at the captain's meeting, I believe. And that was before they went 100% Triad, if I'm getting that correctly. So, Nox was wrong a lot in that. But with the they showed, like, say someone was able to defeat Nama, that wasn't Asta, and they fused. I don't think anyone else is really contending with them, to be completely fair. I find it very hard to believe that even someone like Mario Leona would be able to contest. And at the very end of the day, you need to be Arcane in order to defeat them. So it would take a team effort, but without... they can become intangible, more or less. Lilith, obviously, not intangible, but they can change their form to their attribute. That makes them super hard to catch and actually hit. So even if you are Arcane, you gotta actually track them down. They're extremely fast. So, like, it would be a massive uphill battle. So, yeah, Lilith and Nama, absolutely up there as far as power goes. They just got matched up with the wrong guy on the wrong day. That's what happens to the best. So, final message. How's it going? My voice is again. Oh my goodness! It looks like it's fine. Oh no, it's not. God damn it! Is it like? It doesn't look like it's consistent. So maybe I'll write it out, and we'll see if it gets any worse. Okay. So we talked about Asta probably just having sword magic, which is not bad. Sword magic seems to be like the ideal thing to have anyway. But I talked about this mana thing because you can hide your mana. And this is where I get into my conspiracy theories. So, I think that both of these guys are hiding their respective mana. Am I saying Asa has mana? 100 fucking percent. Yes, I am. I'm saying he has some type of energy. And whether he's aware or not, I don't know. I have made theories as to where Asta is more of an Eren Yeager type character who has all the knowledge of what's going on, but is kind of, letting things go through the motion. And in this case, kind of keeping his enemies close. That's just what the saying is, right? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And how much closer can someone get than being your the direct part of your power? Now, personally, I would like if Asta did not know any of this, of course, and I'd rather him, find his own way, because we've seen his personal struggles in real time. So, in that sense, it wouldn't really get put together too well if he's aware completely of what he's capable of and whatever hidden power and or knowledge that he has that can be applied to the series. But when we get to Liebe, Lucifero should, in this case, now that we know that this power can be shared and can be mixed in with mana and all that stuff, he probably should have been able to read some type of mana signature from Liebe, but he didn't. And this is problematic, because this just feeds into the Liebe lying this whole time. This whole thing. He's lying. I don't care what anyone says. Liebe is the biggest damn liar that has been in this series. And one of my favorite parts was early in the series, in the elf arc, when, the elves thought they had it, like, alright, cool, we got it. The stone from And then Ron finally talks, and Raya was like, whoa, why was that a lie? And it was just a whole mood change, and then we get a groundbreaking moment where devils exist. Like, dog, that was so groundbreaking. And I'm one of those people. I don't like the elf arc as much as other people do. I think it's very overrated. But that part, there's been no other part like that in this series. We need something like that again. And I know people were like, well, you know, we don't want the plot twist, blah blah. But that's what makes the story is the plot twist. Like, I don't know what people want. Like, I don't think they know what they want. But imagine this kid was lying to him the whole time. You can hide your key signatures. You can hide your mana signatures. You can manipulate these things as well. And the fact that his Devil Union with Asta is able to dons armor is it shows me that there's already some type of connection to Hino. So if there's already this connection, then it would make sense why he has the armor and why he's able to hide and manipulate Ki. If he is. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I do think that there's something else happening with Liebe. And he hasn't been completely forthcoming. And this, you guys know me, I think this stems to him being Lucifer. And now that I'm looking at this picture on screen right now, with the light around him that he shouldn't have, no devil has had light around, except for Beelzebub. Lucifer is the light bringer. I just find it very hard to believe that he is the one good devil. He's the exception. And a lot of people get on my case for, like, you know, coming up with these outlandish theories that seem to come from nowhere. But even applying Occam's razor and just looking at what we're looking at, it just doesn't add up. He's got to know more. And we have not met one single devil that is decent. So why would that change now? I just don't see it. And I do want to, I know I've been saying this, but it'll happen at some point in a video that has not been released yet. I want to go back to Nam and Lilith. I talk about how if this is the case, he is just as petty, if not more petty, than the rest of these devils. What was that, like 290s? So, oh, that's the Dante fight. We don't want that garbage. Garbage. It's not garbage. It's a really good fight. Just and Xenon is better. 100%. Okay. I think this is the actual chapter that I wanted. So, this part. So, remember, no one knows who Liebe is. Like, he's just like this random ass devil that no one cares about, whatever. But he's built like Supreme Devil, and no one wants to acknowledge that. That's whatever. So then, we see this. Liebe's invested in this fight, right? As he should be. He was being tortured by these beings in that level of hell. So he's taking extreme joy because he's getting his get back, you know. Be it through us, it's not like a real get back, if we're gonna be super real, but he's getting his get back, and he should be happy. Let me see. He says something to them. Oh, he's saying like it's called fear, and they've never had to learn that emotion because no one's ever opposed them in their level of hell, and they took so much joy torturing him. He finally gets to deal a fatal blow to both of them, due to Asta again. So I'm putting it in this frame, and yeah, this spoils the video that I'll be putting out, but I'm putting in the frame that when we look at that tree again, with the Ein Safar, if he is the direct antithesis, the source of this negative mana, he would be the anti-god itself. Then he would descend. He would have to be reborn. He would have to descend into a lower being, and this is the lowest you can go in hell, or the highest, I guess. We're just treating this like the flip up, by the way. So this would be the highest you can go, and instead of respecting his power and maybe recognizing them as they maybe should, they tortured him. So he's getting his get back. Screw these people, whatever. He kind of does the same thing with Zagrid. Zagrid talks about how his magic, or the anti-magic, is resonating with his mana, which shouldn't happen if it's anti-magic, right? Then before Zagrid full-on dies, we get this little, like, conversation. It's not even a conversation, it's just like a quick little snippet where Zagrid somehow meets Liebe in the Grimoire. He would have to be in the Grimoire for this to happen, which makes zero sense. But for some reason, Liebe takes a lot of pleasure in just dismissing him into whatever afterlife he's about to go to. Detroit, I guess. And it's just odd, right? Why are we resonating with Zagrid's magic, and why are we calling him chief and then dismissing him as if he's familiar? Zagrid wasn't in the first level. In fact, there's more evidence that he was in probably the last level, with Lucifero, Beelzebub, and Lucificus. So what's the deal with all that? You know, it's just a little bit odd. Strange things are happening around here. You guys don't watch Courage the Cowardly Dog. You guys are too young. But those are just some things I'm personally seeing in the story. So this kid is probably lying. When he does, you guys come back, you know, like, subscribe, whatever, you know. But when I'm wrong, we just sweep it under the rug. It never happened. So that's that. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about there. There are a couple of threads on here I think I wanted to dive in on as well. I've been shitposting a lot lately. Oh, the whole Xenon thing. This is interesting. I'm currently working on a thought to flesh this out. So, to make this thread shorter than what it is, I'm just acknowledging here that Xenon seems that a lot of precautionary measures were put in place on Xenon by Lucius for the reason that Xenon is known to go off script when it comes to plans. And I only say that because when Xenon was a kid, he wasn't even trying to be a devil host. We have to remember that. And the Triad was supposed to be in on this plan for a long time. And Lucius waited years for Xenon to catch on, finally. And he probably had more than everything to do with why Alan died and why Xenon had to do what he did. But Xenon is never known to just follow what people say and do. He's always been on his own time, more or less. He's been more driven to do good than bad. We can say that for sure. So he meets Alan. He was like, no, screw family. You guys are weird, stupid. I'm not doing the devil thing. I'm going to protect people. That's what I want to do. That's my dream. Kills Alan. Hits a low, the lowest of lows. And as a kid, he already knew that if he took on the tradition that his family was doing, he would be one of the strongest ones. And so it just further implies that he needed Xenon for whatever reason. He just needed Xenon. And then we get to the actual invasion of the Spade Arc, which I also kind of find weird because we never see Vonica and Dante enter the Force at all. We only see Xenon do it, and even then, in the anime at least, from what I remember, they say that they don't even know where they came from. and they don't acknowledge Xenon as like having been a part of the protection forces at all. It was just kind of weird. But anyway, the in that point, obviously Dante was gonna go, kill Lois. We don't really know what Vonika's job was there. I think she was just causing chaos. While Xenon was very blatantly tasked with the mission to kill Baby Yuno. And it was, for now, what is obvious, the reason being that Yuno would be the singularity that opposes Lucius, who is now stronger than any timeline that he's ever seen. So, Xenon, in the anime, we see him walk towards, Ralph's dad with Yuno, and then he stops and he goes like, okay, you guys go ahead. So he doesn't like let him go off the hook completely, but he doesn't finish the job, and that served as a detriment to the entire plan that Lucius set out for. And then we see that when he tries to recall on his past, he can't even remember what Lucius looks like. Now, there's psychological reasons as to why this would happen, if they are linked to Lucius directly, which I think they still could be, and probably are, because it wouldn't really make sense to make them the Dark Triad, which is a psychological element. But it just seems that Xenon was just gonna be that problem, that thorn in Lucius' side the entire time. So now, to kind of flesh this out, Xenon is coupled with Beelzebub, and Beelzebub is the true king of demons. Now, while Satan is present, it's Beelzebub who is known as the actual Prince of Demons. This is the one that demons actually respect, because Beelzebub was entrusted by Lucifer, non-Satan, to control the government of the underworld. Satan eventually gets overthrown. He takes over the entirety of hell, not just demons, but the actual place. So if he's working with Beelzebub, it's a direct plan to oppose Lucius, to still work amongst the Triad with the agenda of inciting the advent of Clipoff. However, there have to be certain points where the certain I'm missing some words here. Certain, I guess, hallmarks, or certain landmarks that need to be achieved to make sure that the devils descend. That is ultimately what devils want to do, and that won't change from devil to devil at all. Agendas further than that might change, but the mission to come into the world of the living will never change. So while working with Beelzebub to descend, he's actively working against Lucius. Now, this goes in part with Adramelech not being forthcoming with Lucius as well. Same thing that's I kind of illustrated with Liebe and Asta, where Liebe might be lying to Asta. It's happening with Lucius as well. And I think this would make sense down to literary devices, because we talk about Christ-like figure being Asta, the anti-Christ-like figure being Lucius, and how they're going to ultimately parallel each other. And one of those things is working with the devil directly. And I'm very, I'm 99% sure that mark is from Adramelech, and not Astaroth. For Asta's side, he's working with Liebe, obviously, right? So both of them will end up getting the rug pulled from under their feet by their respective devils. And to kind of circle back to what's happening currently in this series with the Black Bulls, I think this opens up the descent of the Order of the Flies, or the descent of the Seven Deadly Sins. What they're receiving is negative mana. This is known to corrupt people, or things, or elves, I guess. more specifically, but we know that humans can turn into devils. But elves use negative energy that are akin to ancient demons. So now we have this situation where humans are using demon power, where humans are the ideal vessels for devils. Now, a devil with negative energy could serve as a big problem, as Liebe is becoming a much bigger problem as anti-magic grows. Or, well, this energy grows, rather. So, I don't know. Maybe what I've been thinking of the paladins being taken over by their respective devils, maybe it comes down to the Black Bulls being taken over. I think it would make the series stand out a bit more if Asta were faced with having to not only lose his own devil, Liebe, through him lying to him and being the ultimate evil, but also having to oppose his friends and possibly even having to harm them. Seeing that Asta has not harmed anyone else in this series except for devils, him having to, for the first time, put someone down and having it be someone like a squad member would be extremely emotional and impactful to the story, and would ultimately build on Asta's journey to become Wizard King. Realistically, Asta has not faced the adversity needed to become the Wizard King, and I think this is the point that the movie was trying to drive home. All of those Wizard Kings had some absolutely absurd trauma meet them, and they ultimately crumbled. They took on a very warped view on how to achieve peace and order. Asta really hasn't seen that. Yuno has, through the Golden Dawn because of Xenon. And this is the only thing really separating Yuno from Asta at this point. Yuno has just simply been through much more than Asta has emotionally. So, like I said, if this were to go down, and some of these guys were to be taken over by devils, then Asta would be losing a lot. He'd be losing an entire family. And that would suck. That would suck. I see some comments, so let me read those. Tingus, on your theory about Licht and Tetia's children being Lucifer and Azazel, and how Lucifer falls to hell and Azazel to earth, Liebe did fall to hell, and Yuno's elf resided on earth in Elysia. It's cool. Yeah. I don't know how far the Azazel thing's going to go. I think it'd be really cool if they incorporated Azazel in the story. And to have it be Yuno's second soul or spirit would be really, really cool. And we've yet to see what it would look like if Yuno were to get changed into a paladin, to see if both souls or just one would get affected. It would be something to see if that soul got affected. And ultimately, if that soul did get affected, I think something to realize would be that he could manipulate the flow of negative energy. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think, like I said, I don't really know if Tabata's going to go there, but it would be cool. And it kind of goes along with that picture that's in the in this Devil Union room where they do the ritual. I don't think it's on this chapter, but the goat in the center can be looked at as a scapegoat, and that's exactly what Azazel is known for being, is the scapegoat for people's sins. So yeah. But I do think, yeah, there's something happening, and I think we'll get the triad back. I think how it'll ultimately go down is that if these devils do descend through human vessels, and they'll ultimately end up having 2 attributes. We'll get the Triad back, and they'll probably be allies. And I don't think Lucius is going anywhere. And I'll say it here first, before I put it anywhere else, is that I think Lucius will ultimately get defeated for sure. But his magic does not require him to die. He has direct control over the flow of souls. And something that should be acknowledged is that your soul, and whether it's attached to a body or not, is really the difference between whether you're living or dying. So he, much like Roddy's, this, again, a small instance of something that happened later, or happened earlier, that will happen later, or might happen later, is how Roddy's was able to pull back his soul, along with Valtos and Sally, back into their bodies. Lucius could have been doing this for a while already, but if he hasn't, he should be able to do this as well. He's got soul magic. So, if Asta truly is empty, I do think it might be a little bit interesting to see Lucius latch onto Asta, to where Asta then has more soul magic, along with maybe sword magic that I'm thinking he has. But I don't know if this would necessarily require him to be empty. Who knows? It might not, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I really do think Asta was set up to have soul magic. And I had made the video back when, as soon as got his star magic, I was like, instantly, Asta's gotta have soul magic. But then they got Lucius with soul magic. So I'm thinking that it might be the case, something that might happen that we could see in the future, and Lucius acts more as a guide to Asta, rather than working against him, obviously, because his plan didn't work out. I don't think Lucius is the type of character that will fight for this perfect body's agenda past its prime. Meaning, if this is a plot from Devils to acquire perfect vessels, which I think it is, and Lucius finds that out a little too late, and he ultimately dies, goes into Asta, he'll realize that Asta was right this whole time, and he's already got the power to offset reality as it is and fate. So coupled with soul magic, Asta would be very, very powerful. But when we get into like the Triad becoming allies, it would be, I've always liked the thought of Dante taking on the role of Virgil in Dante's Inferno, where he kind of, I mean, look, the Triad has the wherewithal of the underworld and how these devils work. They were the hosts of the kings of hell itself, so they would know almost all there is to know. They are the perfect guides to help Asta navigate what would be this apocalyptic event to where these devils descend. In this case, it might flip where Xenon actually doesn't become an ally, which I don't know if I'd like or not, but it would be interesting to see Xenon be like completely sided with Beelzebub, especially if Beelzebub does uphold that part of his contract to its fullest, where they're gonna protect the Spade no matter what. But that really just depends. Again, we haven't really seen any devils that are actually nice, except for Liebe. But that could be all a ruse. But none of them are decent. And Beelzebub does have the potential to not hold up that end of the bargain. So we'll definitely see what happens there. But that's kind of where my head's been at for right now. I don't really think we need to go over the Ancient Demon stuff unless you guys want to, but it's all here if you guys just want to read it. But did I need to talk about the firmament anymore? I don't think I did. But if you're not aware of what I think about the firmament thing, just look at this picture real quick. You see at the top of this dome, they have the gates of heaven. You'll also see it known or labeled as the Vault of Heaven. And I think this is what's above the spade, ultimately, is the Gate of Heaven. And in this thread, I kind of tell you, if you look at the map, it looks like something tried to separate these lands from the rest of whatever the hell's up here. The fact that they have ancient demons that the Grinburial family was guarding means that they were protecting something. And it wasn't just themselves, I don't think. And with that said, too, if they had the power of the ancient demons, and like, why even let the Triad get that much out of hand instead of letting your entire kingdom get fodderized? I think that's a really good question, actually. So, I don't know. I think there's something very important up here, and I think the only important thing that the series has to offer is a heaven. And in the firmament's case, heaven is 100% a physical thing. So, yeah, there's that. Let me see. Courage the Cowardly Dog, do be top. Top tier. Yes, it does. Courage the Cowardly Dog is epic. So epic. I like the fan theory that, where it's like, the whole thing is just from the perspective of a dog. It's nothing supernatural at all. Which makes sense. Like the whole fly episode, where the fly was like the size of a human, and it was sucking the blood of Muriel and Eustace. Dogs hate flies, and they make the problem that much bigger. So I thought that was really cool. And when I watch episodes every now and again, I'll look at it like that, and it totally makes sense. The Cartoon Network fan theories are probably some of my favorite things on the planet Earth, by far. They have one for Ed, Edd and Eddy too, where they're all like in purgatory, because they all come from different timelines, and the way they map it out, it's crazy. Because like Ralph is like a farmer from like way back when agriculture was like a big thing, right? And then the chick, I forget what her name was supposed to be like the super modern day, like the most recent person. It's cool. You guys gotta look into that. It's super awesome. Do you think Yuno could become a dark elf through his other soul? I have a feeling we might get that and have sort of a purified dark elf if Lucius were to turn Yuno into a paladin. I think it's just complicated, right? Again, going with Occam's razor, we've never seen a human despair. Yuno has had every reason to despair, right? So this means that the power to despair doesn't belong to him, but it belongs to the elf. What would the elf possibly despair over, right? Is just the big question. There's no real attachment that it could have to anything, except for Liebe, if they're brothers. But other than that, I don't know. I just need to see something. Oh, well, okay. Let's just kind of like hash it out. Because Lucius can manipulate the memories of people, right? Maybe not. Well, I don't think it's too far from his grasp, but I don't think we've seen direct memory manipulation except for Xenon, and it's just a blur of the face. But he can manipulate the way people think. So, if he can manipulate it in a way where he makes these faux attachments to the elf and some outside sources, and obliterates those sources and causes it to despair, that would be interesting. And then making Yuno a paladin would just kind of 10x that power, I feel like. So yeah, maybe there's room for it if it happens that way. Other than that, there's no reason why it would turn into a devil at all. That is a part that I struggle with, though, for sure, and I think about it a lot. Hopefully we get to see it, though. Do you think If Roddy's had more spells than a devil like Lucius, he'd be a bigger threat because his soul magic is more versatile. Are you saying that you think Roddy's Wraith magic is more versatile than Lucius's soul magic? Because I think on that end I would disagree. I think Roddy's is pretty one-dimensional, and his power is very much contingent on how strong the corpse that he digs up is. Dude, let's... Roddy's got the craziest hand dealt to him by life. Because his power needs him. It requires him to use dead bodies. And he has to dig that up. Like, it's not his fault, you know, that it's like that. But, oh, God. It's kind of crazy that's that way. But, with a devil, yeah, Roddy's would be broken. Because he'd be a necromancer. I mean, he is a necromancer, but, like, knowing that devils can, in quotes, affect intangible concepts, he could effectively raise the dead without having to do all the heavy lifting, you know? So, it's, he'd be intense as a devil, man, for sure. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool thing to look forward to if and when that happens. Just wonder what he's doing right now. I think it would. They could use him in so many ways. Sally as well, Voltos as well. They're just not being smart about their military strategy. Period. And this has been happening since the Spade arc for me. You know, Voltos has the ability to have his spell is called Blackout, and he can teleport mass amounts of people and things in one fell swoop. And that could have happened in the Spade Kingdom to evacuate the citizens. And that could have easily happened in the Clover Kingdom. They were already waiting for Lucius. Like, why not, like, use this guy and be like, hey, take these people somewhere safe when the ball drops. But no. Like, let's just huddle them up and then, you know, we'll do this so that Xeno can display his power. You know, they just weren't being smart. Another thing they could have done was use the dead army of Roddy's and help him out. Give him some corpses of, you know, maybe not the strongest mages, but some capable mages. So that maybe even Sally can amp for him to be able to better fight Lucius and not have to use the actual bodies and lives of real-time mages. Everything that happened with the Crimson Lions that were sacrificing themselves could have been corpses. It would have saved so many lives. But instead, they just want to, like, keep them imprisoned and doing, like, dirty work or whatever. Like, why? Why? Revchi, another huge component to something that could be to someone who could use their power to greatly benefit what's happening now. His chains, being able to sap the magic, maybe not sap, but bind the magic of the person that he's affecting is crazy. He's still one of the craziest powers in the series, but hasn't been revisited. Gildre, another one. His attribute is so broken. He could be top tier, but Tabata won't let him. How cool would it be, you know, to be able to share that power with things like citizens? Run away without having to worry about getting damaged by any spells coming their way. I just feel like there are ways to use these people that they're keeping for prisoners. And it's not to their benefit. The world is at risk. You're going to have to make some of your enemies allies. And that's just how it comes down, you know. So they just haven't been smart about this the entire time, to me. Courage also crossed over with Scooby-Doo, which I still have to see. I haven't heard someone talk about Cartoon Network series in such a long time. They're so nostalgic. Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome. Maybe I'll just like dedicate one stream to it because they're actually pretty cool. Tony, it's one-dimensional because he has one page. Yeah, it is one-dimensional because he has one page. I would say it's not as one-dimensional. A page has a front and back, so I think I think a spell that he used to bring their souls back to their bodies was less of what he does to like already dead bodies. Like he's not putting souls into them at all. He's reanimating them though. But I do think he's got two moves that are pretty cool. But yeah, he can make zombies and can make and combine their attributes. Yeah. So it's been a while since we've seen Roddy's, and I hope he's got some really cool corpses with really cool powers at this point. And I ultimately I just hope they use the Eye of the Midnight Sun. I really do. Elves included. We haven't seen Veto in a while. We haven't seen Raya. We haven't seen Fauna. We haven't seen Patri. And I know Patri says that he doesn't have his he can't use his grimoire. And I don't think that's necessarily a big issue, because Zagrid talks about how he's able to use his magic, even though he doesn't have a grimoire. I'll see if I can try to find it as I'm explaining it. But he turns into a dark elf, and Zagrid just yoinks the grimoire. And Patri's letting off the spells that he would normally use with his grimoire. And Zagrid specifically says that he's using the shadows of the magic he used to have in his grimoire. Look, it's the second soul of Yuno. Right there. It was right in front of our faces. Crazy. So, oh man. Like, what does the rest of this picture mean, you know? Kind of crazy that Tabata did this so early into the series, but yeah, it's crazy. Nope, not this one. It's got to be like 198 maybe. He says this. It's before he flies away for sure. Is it? Okay, yeah, I think this is it. Also, Zagrid leaning in and telling Patri to like rage to his heart's content or whatever, or let malice overtake him, is like, that was so cool. Here it is. Rampage as you will. And then he does. That was crazy. Alright, so the Dark Elf thing happens. We see demon light, not devil light magic. And we see the clear. This is exactly what the Black Bull's magic looks like right now. So, this is why I'm saying now that Asta and or Liebe have ties to demons. And the reality is, too, if Liebe turns out to be Lucifer, something I talked about in that thread is that these things in mythology are called Purva-devas, which actually translate directly to ancient demon or ancient deity. And they also say that one of the translations is progenitor, meaning that this is one of the original gods. So Lucifer would be technically one of the original demonic gods. So it wouldn't it would make a lot of sense if he had this negative energy and harnessed it in its purest form. Yeah, but that's a little off topic from what I'm saying now. But yeah, we see he uses the light swords of conviction. Like, this is a named spell. A named spell that you don't have when you don't have a grimoire. And let me see. He says, at this point, that's a heartless, burned out shell. It's merely casting scorched shadows of the spells in its grimoire. So that he never said at any point that he can't use spells that he once knew from his grimoire. So I know the power system requires people to, like, when they hone in their powers and when they get their grimoires to get more specific spells. The thing is that Patri loses this grimoire midway through his life, kind of. And he had already acquired these spells, and Zagrid full on acknowledges that he can still use these spells that he's been using. But they're just using a different energy now. Obviously, they're demon light and not based in regular pure mana. So I don't know what Patri's doing, and I don't know why he, like, you know, maybe it's about to drop the ball here. Because remember, Patri, like, he copped out. Maybe he was just too scared to fight Lucifero. I don't know. But he totally copped out. He's like, well, I'd help. But, you know, I don't want my grimoire. You know, I'm kind of a demon, kind of not thing. He totally copped out. So, I hope Tabata didn't drop the ball there, and I hope there's just something that hasn't been mentioned yet. But as of right now, it kind of looks like Tabata maybe forgot that this happens. But yeah. Let me get back to this. This was also another point of reference that I was trying to point out to people. And just notice, Patri is someone who's loved by mana. Beloved by mana. This is what Patri is. And notice that, and granted, this is not in his full Dark Elf form, obviously, he's not dark. But we do know that it's still within him. There's not a lot of mana that's being drawn his way, and it's on the outside. We look at Asta, he has the same kind of energy, but is flowing within him at much more amounts. Very condensed, and it seems like more pure than Patri might be dealing with. So again, we have to take what's said with a grain of salt, but the things that don't lie are your eyes, right? Anyone can say, and I bring up the Gray point again, Gray has transformation magic. Anyone can say that. It took Owen looking at what happened, right? Or even before Owen, when she's healing Ghosh, our eyes are telling us this is not transformation magic. That is not a lie. We're not able to label it, but we can definitely tell ourselves that is not transformation magic. Here, it's being labeled anti-magic. But our eyes, again, are telling us that this is negative mana that Asta's using. Just straight up and down. So, that's kind of where I stand on this. I don't know how you guys feel. With the lack of comments or people opposing right now, I'm assuming you guys understand what I'm saying, but, if not, let me know. This was such a... Dude, this will probably be the last thing I go over, unless you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, or death threats. But this was a super good read. Like a super, super good read. Because this has to do with antimatter. And I think ultimately, WK Minato was right. And you guys are going to be blessed with a video. Possibly over the weekend. Just saying. You didn't hear it from me. But you heard it from me. WK Minato full court shot this. Like 3 years ago. He said that anti-magic will evolve and become anti-magic, or antimatter. So, I went onto the CERN website. CERN is like this super big, I want to show you guys, how credible of a source this is. I need to know exactly. The European Organization for Nuclear Research is what it is, okay? They make tons of scientific discoveries. Very good source. Helix, how's it going? Okay. So this is from CERN. And I'll just read this to you. So it says, when Stoder and her colleagues swapped zippy electrons for lumbering antiprotons. So the idea is Antimatter exists like matter does, except it follows the opposite rules, essentially, right? So a proton, the opposite of a proton would be an antiproton. What an antiproton is essentially an electron that acts as a proton. So you can say more or less that the antiproton is an electron. I only say more or less because it does act as a proton as well. So they swapped the zippy electrons for lumbering antiprotons. They drastically changed the atom's dynamics. The massive antiproton is much more of a homebody, staying close to the nucleus, where the outer electron can shelter it. I guess it would make sense to pull up like what an atom is, or how it's laid out, right? So when we look at the atom, you see that all the positive charges are inside, towards the nucleus, right, of the actual atom, where the neutrons are as well. On the outside are where the electrons lie. So this is what they're talking about. And so what they're doing is, instead of having electrons here that are free-floating, kind of loose, they're not sticking close to the actual body of the atom, they're kind of circling it, right? And now they're putting the antiprotons in, and what ends up happening is that you replace these with plus marks, but they are still acting in ways that an electron would, but also as a proton. I hope that made sense. Okay. So the massive antiproton is much more a homebody, staying close to the nucleus, where the outer electron can shelter it. The electron is like a force field, or like a shield. Still, this rough theory only goes so far. The researchers still cannot explain why the spectral broadening reversed as they switched from gas to liquid to superfluid, and they have no way to calculate the degree of tightening. You need to be predictive, otherwise it's not a theory. It's just a hand-waving. And then in the other one it says, despite presumably taking a battering from the dense surroundings, the hybrid matter-antimatter atoms were acting in improbable unison. Meaning, so why this is so groundbreaking, right, is that the interactions between matter and antimatter are supposed to annihilate each other completely. However, when used in this way to replace electrons with antiprotons, they start acting in unison. So they continue to say, unsure of what to make the experiment, Soter and Hori sat on the result while they mulled over what could have gone wrong. We continued to argue for many years, Hori said. It was not easy for me to understand why this was the case. So when it comes down to it, this still fits the schematic of what we're seeing with devils. Devils do not have this highly conceptual power like someone like Ron might have, or Raya. They have very physical attributes: fire, ice, space, time, gravity. These are physical things, physically observable things. Now, time is kind of up in the air. This is why it's arcane as well, since it's kind of man-made and kind of conceptual. But anyway, these are explanations in the real world, and it would only make sense if, especially if Liebe ends up being Lucifer, to have something like antimatter. This would be the logical jump to make at the highest root above gravity, space, and time. So, when and if antimatter becomes canon, you guys know to go to WK Minato and be like, bro, I hate you, you're stupid, but wow, you're smart. Good for you. You guys say those exact words. You're linked to the stream. I have many death threats. Actually, no, I found the link and I actually have it up here somewhere. Yeah, I have it up. I decided I'm not going to use the stream to read this light novel, but I'll use future streams to do so. But yeah, I'm heading towards the end of this anyway. But since that's mentioned, I will probably be reading the light novels with you guys if you do want to read it with me. It's something I haven't read personally, and as far as I know, I guess they're canon. So it's a good idea for me to read them to better understand what's happening in the series. So I'll probably separate it, just one light novel per stream. And yeah, so if you guys are down for that, definitely tune in. If not, it's whatever. I'll be doing more streams for other theories. But yeah, I think I am going to head out. I've got to go run some errands and I got to finish my final essay. Wish me luck. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate you. And I will see you in the next video. It's been Jack Oates to go. You either know or you don't.